So hello everyone.
Howdy.
So hello everyone, and welcome to our Purple Martin Fanatics second virtual site tour of the year of the season of 2022. Tonight it's a fireside chat. We'll cover a few topics that were preordained by the voting we had in our group, and then we'll have just a fireside chat, whatever you guys want to talk about. So our topics tonight are supplemental feeding, which is very timely right now, of course. Travis and Anna, I know you guys are dealing with it. I'm dealing with it. And predator guards, we're going to talk about the various types of predator guards you can use and why to use them. And lastly, I think our other topic was providing oyster shells or eggshells and why we provide calcium to our purple martins. So I think that covers it. Brad, did you want to say anything?
Glad everybody's here. If anybody has any questions, throw them at us.
Yep. Okay, so let's start off with supplemental feeding. Supplemental feeding. Why do we provide supplemental feeding? Well, there are a lot of reasons. The birds migrate here and they get here and the weather pulls a 180 on them and it changes. And any time that the temperatures drop below 50 degrees, and that's an average. It could be 48 degrees and a half. It could be 49 degrees, give or take. But the average to look at is around 50 degrees. And when that temperature drops below that, usually the insects stop flying. And what do purple martins eat? They eat insects, flying insects. And the insects stop flying, the purple martins start getting hungry. There are other factors that can be involved as well. It doesn't just have to be the temperature dropping below 50 degrees. It can be constant rain for more than 2 to 3 or 4 days. Courtney, I see you nodding. Help me with this story. I believe it was Hurricane Agnes that went through Pennsylvania. Was it 1970s, somewhere in there?
Oh, I don't know specifically. Sorry.
Yeah, it was a big hurricane that went through Pennsylvania. Agnes, I believe it was called. You guys may have to look that up. During the 1970s.
May the 18th of 1974.
See, I knew Brad would know. But it basically wiped out the population of purple martins in Pennsylvania because it rained, I believe it was 7 days straight, constant. No flying insects. I'll try that. That no insects will fly in constant rain like that. So all the purple martins starved to death. Since that time, we have learned about supplemental feeding and the conditions under which we need to feed. Like I said, under 50 degrees, or even if it's 60 or 70 degrees and it's constant rain for more than 2 or 3 days, you need to start thinking about feeding them. I started out feeding them in 2011. We had a great spring. It was warming up, and then all of a sudden, the martins arrived, and then along about April, somewhere in there, the weather snapped down. It started snowing. It was freezing. There were no flying insects, and it continued for 2 days, 3 days. And after the second day, I thought, I really should try this supplemental feeding thing. I was hearing of people picking up dead purple martins in their yard in 5-gallon buckets, some large colonies that didn't know about supplemental feeding or didn't do it. Were having to pick up dead martins in their yards. And I thought, I'm not going to do that. So I got my crickets and I went outside and I stood in my yard and I started flipping crickets with those clear picnic spoons, and started flipping a cricket past each martin that was standing there or perched there on the rods. And they started supplemental feeding from the flipped crickets. As all of us know, it takes a lot of energy to chase those crickets for the martins. And when they're already in such dire straits, you don't want them to have to waste more energy to chase down the crickets. So I transitioned them to tray feeding over the course of maybe a couple of days, maybe 3. I have a second floor porch, and I moved up on that porch and started flipping the cricket up onto my roof because I was closer to the roof up there. And ended up with a lot of crickets in my hair. Brad doesn't have that problem, but I do. And but the crickets bounced everywhere. I also started adding in scrambled eggs. Scrambled eggs you can do with no butter or oil or anything, just a little bit of water in a pan, cook them. You don't have to add salt or any of that good stuff. Started adding in eggs because I was running out of crickets. And after I came in, after flipping eggs and crickets up on my roof and bouncing all over the deck and everything, I noticed that the martins started landing on the roof and my deck and picking up the crickets and the eggs. And from there, it became easy. Well, it wasn't easy. It was easier than it was to flip, because it was still hard, because I had by the time the weather ended, I had over 100 martins here that I was feeding, and I still lost a few, but I saved a lot. And ever since then, every spring, the first day that it gets rainy or cold or both, my martins actually come up on my deck and sit there and chirp loud enough for me to hear them. And I gather my crickets and I go outside and start it all over again, even though they know how to tray feed. I refresh their memory. Here's some flipped crickets. Here's some flipped eggs. And they kind of train the new ones that have come in as well, which is kind of cool, because I don't have to, redo that whole painful 3 days of training to eat from the tray again. Because once I flip, 50 or 60 crickets, I put it all on my deck again on the porch rail. And the ones that remember the tray feeding, they teach the new arrivals. So it's good to refresh that every year as well. So real quick message about the crickets, and then I'm going to open it up to questions for people that are struggling with this or want to know more about supplemental feeding. The crickets that I order from reptilefood.com. They have pros and cons about them. One of the pros is they get them out to you quick, and if they make a mistake, they fix it right away. It's overnight. They're cheaper for the cost of the crickets. It may be a little more expensive for the shipping, but I order enough crickets that it basically pays for the shipping. So I think it's, last time I looked, it was $12 for 1,000 1-inch crickets. The shipping on that would be like $25 or $30. So what I do is I order 5,000 crickets. I stick them in the freezer. And I think I leave them in there 2 or 3 hours, and I wait until basically, they're not moving anymore, because they're hard to handle when they're moving. And then I take them out and start bagging them into Ziploc baggies, 250 per bag. And then as I need them, I thaw them out in a cup of lukewarm water and get my spoons and go for it. You can figure it needs about, and I discussed this with our former rehabber, Penny Casey Halstead. Courtney, I think you remember her.
Yeah.
And Louise as well. And we figured out that it takes about 40 crickets per day per martin. So if you have a large colony, you count on however many crickets or however many birds you have times 40 crickets a day. Not every martin is going to eat 40 crickets, but that's what you should supply yourself with to be prepared just in case. And that'll cover anything like waste as well, or because they're not always going to catch them. But it'll also cover, if you have additional birds show up. I have additional birds show up from other people's colonies, I think, some days, because I'm like, whoa, there are a lot more birds here than I thought when I started feeding. And then when you walk away, or the martins walk away, cardinals will come in, and bluebirds as well, or other birds will also partake from your tray. So that's just a general estimate on how many crickets you should order for your birds. And of course, if you know that you're getting ready to have a week worth of rain, you might want to plan on that number times your birds times 7 days. So So I'm going to stop for a minute and take a breath and a drink and give anybody a chance to ask questions.
You're not having to feed right now, are you?
I did not have to feed today. I didn't have to feed yesterday because I was thumping crane flies off my screens and they were feeding on those. But no, we hit 63 degrees today. So it was a good day for the martins here today. Yeah.
That was about what we got up to finally.
I think yesterday we hit 56 or 57. I was surprised the crane flies were moving, but they were. They had a little bit of motivation. The day before I had to feed, we've gone through about 1,500, maybe 2,000 crickets.
Wow.
Half a dozen eggs in the last in 2 days before yesterday. Yeah.
Have you tried the black soldier fly larva?
I have not.
I know. I think they died in my garage, Brad. My garage got too cold.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure, go ahead.
How long can you keep these crickets in the freezer? Like if I bought a whole bunch, and are they going to be good next spring, or throw
Yes.
them out and start over?
Yeah, this question was asked a couple of years ago, and someone informed us that they would last up to 2 years. I don't remember who told us that, but I have had my crickets in my freezer now since last May, and they're perfectly fine. Yep, so you can keep them. I wouldn't keep them more than a year. Usually I try to feed out everything I have within a year, but we have been informed that they will last up to 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Have you ever tried vacuum packing any after they were frozen?
No. I go through them too fast to bother.
Yeah.
I get a great deal on Ziplocs at Costco anyway.
There's so much variation between the martins nesting range. I mean, there are people obviously have never had to feed, and then I've had to feed twice in 19 years, and was hoping to feed again this year, but my one trained martin didn't make the trip back, so and we didn't have enough cold weather to feed.
So a lot of the questions that we seem to have gotten over the last few days, and I got a lot of questions a couple of nights ago that I was trying to help people, and they were asking, how do you get started with feeding them? Well, I didn't bring a picnic spoon with me, but hang on just a second. So I have this, see this is my little birds. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. A lot of people will go out and they will flip the crickets. Let's just put them like this. Back up. They'll flip the crickets at the birds. And you don't want to do that because the martins will flinch or fly away. You don't want to flick the crickets directly at the birds. Now my birds are facing this way. You want to flip the crickets past the birds so they will turn and watch as the cricket flies past. I don't know why it keeps, okay, can you see it? The crickets should fly past them like a tennis ball is flying past them. And that will get their interest so that they can see what it is as it flies past without worrying about the cricket thumping them in the head. And basically when I started with my colony, that's what I did. Some of the martins weren't interested, even though their wings were all droopy and they were soaking wet and things. So I just kept finding different martins in my colony that did happen to be looking at me or what I was doing. And I just kept flipping across in front of them until actually it was a female that finally came after the crickets. But that's the way you flip to them. And if one doesn't take it, try another bird. But usually, Courtney, you feed as well, right?
I have never had any luck getting mine to take food, unfortunately.
Oh, you haven't?
I have not. No, I flipped and flipped and flipped, and I ended up just putting a bunch of them in the tunnels, and they ate them.
Okay.
And I've only had to do that once in the last few years. So.
You know, I've heard of others being able to do that, just put it in the tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
I have done that, but I didn't do it until after they recognized that I was giving them food.
Mm-hmm.
And I put it in the tunnels, and I've seen them go into the tunnel, crawl over the crickets, and then come back out and pick them up and bring them in. I've even seen them come to my tray feeder when I had nestlings, and they would take food back and feed the nestlings, the crickets that I had for them.
Mm-hmm.
So just, you know, it's not over here at the beginning of spring when it finally warms up. You may have some kind of weather event that causes you to say, well, guess I need to provide food. But Travis and Anna, have your birds come back this evening?
You're muted.
Yep, you're on mute.
They're
I see
muted.
your tray. There you go.
So we didn't see them all day. We only saw them for a short amount of time yesterday. Didn't see them at all today. And I just looked outside and there's one out there. Travis was going to go ahead and try to flip some crickets because we did get some crickets.
Oh, excellent.
But they weren't out there to be fed. So we're just now seeing them come in. Not sure where they went or what they did. Temperature is 45 degrees and we had snow yesterday.
So a lot of times what happens with especially smaller colonies, like you guys are just getting started, you may only have 2 or 3 birds or whatever. And we've heard of this happening. They will go to a larger colony where there are other birds, and they will do what's called communal roosting. They'll get into gourds with those other birds and stay warm in their gourds, but they'll come back to your colony. They won't stay there. They'll come back when it warms up or becomes more suitable weather, you know, for feeding. I think I've fed other landlords martins as well, because it seems like always more martins show up when I'm feeding than what I thought I had here anyway. But that's good that they're back this evening. And 45, it's not too bad, but you need a few more degrees, right? What's it going to be tomorrow? Do you know?
Yeah, it's supposed to be in the upper 50s, maybe 60 degrees tomorrow.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good. Sounds like they're going to be okay then.
Fingers crossed.
Good. Yep. How many did you have?
3.
3.
Yeah.
Good.
Where are you guys?
We're in southwest Ohio. So we are north of Cincinnati.
Yep, just due east of Dayton. And I think that's a good question too, because trying to think how to put this here. As starting out, and we've had 2 cold years. Last year, we know was tough around Memorial Day. So for newbies starting out, how tough is it? Because we hear a lot of complaint, and genuine complaints. But are they just going back to the nest sites is somebody local? Like we have somebody local to us by the wing 2 miles away. And I think that could maybe help somebody else. You know, if somebody else is close to you, obviously we want to keep trying. Brad, I can see you want to say something on this. It's well, it's tough, you know, we all want them, but what's your thoughts on being in the proximity versus population density? Because in the north, it's a little tougher.
Yeah, I meant to make a post today. I drove by 2 colonies that were active 10 years ago, and neither one of them have any martins here. and we're running out of colonies. I know in the South, everybody thinks we just got martins everywhere, and I guess to a certain extent we do. But if I was starting a new colony, I would want my neighbor to have about 50 pairs at his house, and that would almost ensure that I had some. My neighbor, the guy that owns the farm that joins our farm, he's not my next door neighbor, but he 3 houses down, property lines join. The first year he moved here, he had been trying to get martins for, he said 10 years at his old house and never had any. And he put up 32 gourds the first year. That was when my colony, I actually have 2 colonies, one here in my backyard and one down at the barn, which is about 300 feet away. You've seen that, Travis, but his first year he put up 32 gourds and he had 32 pairs of martins. So that's pretty good success. And then last year, Micah Glasgow lives about a half a mile through the woods, and I intentionally delayed putting some gourds up, and he got martins. And then I have a neighbor about a half a mile the other way who's had a colony for decades, and he didn't have predator guards, and his colony has dwindled down. I know that twice in the past 19 years he has gone from having a colony to not having a colony, and I'm assuming it was from snakes or whatever.
Oh, yay!
But
Hey, Nancy.
Yay!
yay, Nancy!
Yay! I am so technologically retarded. I know a lot about birds, but I know nothing about iPhones.
We're in good company. So
Welcome,
my neighbor up the road, I called him this past winter, and or at February, March, early March, and I said, hey, I noticed that you didn't have many martins last year. And he said, no, I just don't know what's going on. And I invited him to come down here, and he did, and he swears he's going to put up predator guards, even though he doesn't have them up yet. And but he'd got some new gourds, and he called me last weekend. He had 15 birds now. So but it takes colonies to make colonies. It's just that simple. I don't, we can kick around what the optimal size of a colony is till the sun comes back up tomorrow. But it takes more than one, in my opinion, it takes more than one pole to make an established long-term colony, because 16 gourds, you're probably going to get them from now on, but you might not. But you don't have to have 100. But every martin colony helps other martin colonies get started.
Right. So Travis, I don't know if you were on last time, but we had talked about the minimum size colony that you should have for sustainability is a 24 pair. Yep. 24 pair. But did Brad cover your question?
He did. And just for future thought, I think that may be something for discussion, is what defines a colony, but also maybe proximity. And to the challenge that I and Anna are fighting is, this is 2 years now where when a cold spell hits, we're prepared to go out and feed and the birds disappear. Now we're a little more comfortable with that. We've had a great group to help coach us on that and not panic. However, other people may not until you get established in what the birds are actually doing. Just food for thought.
No, you're right. But someday your knowledge is going to pay off because your colony is going to grow.
So I've got a follow-up question to all of that.
Sure.
I'm not a Martin landlord. I'm just a bird nut over here. So once you have an established colony, is there, I guess, a somewhat known growth rate to your colony? So let's just say you have 36 gourds out one year. If you put out another 36 the next year, do those typically fill, and then so on and so forth? Can you just build a massive colony and have it sustain itself? Or will they eventually break off to find new territory?
So you can have as big a colony as you want. Basically, as long as you provide housing, you'll have martins. The rule of thumb for a colony is you will normally, prenatal dispersal, there's an article on this on the PMCA website. About 10% of the fledges born at your colony will come back the next year.
Right.
And then other 90% will disperse. And the normal dispersal, I had a presentation on this for the PMCA. I think it was 9 miles is the average dispersal radius around a colony. And there are some that will disperse further. And those are the ones that help grow the other colonies. But yeah, you can grow your colony as big as you want, but there's no way to, Brad, I wouldn't say if you added 36 gourds next year, you'll fill up 36 gourds.
No.
I've had 84 gourds now for, I don't know how long, 14 years. And some years I have 78 pair, some years I have 82 pair, some years I have 84 pair. But I imagine if I wanted to have more, I could.
I think that's just a product of how aggressive a male is in defending two cavities or what,
Yeah.
you know, finding one empty hole in 84 gourds it'd be hard for me to do. So, yeah. But
I got you. I just see similar trends like this in other species where there's a whole population fluctuation. So some years may be a boom year where you just have, an eruption year where you have a lot of individuals, and then maybe food scarcity or weather events, and then the population starts to tank a little bit. I was just wondering if there was like a rate of growth to a colony that anybody knew of.
The answer to that question is it's completely dependent on where the colony is.
Okay.
Well, maybe not where, but you know, if I had a colony here and I had trees all around, I might have 6 pairs instead of what I have. My colony, it's about as optimum a location as you can get without being on the water. My first year I had 4 pair. My second year I had 32 pair. My third year I had 74 pair. And then I had 102 my fourth year. So after my first year, everything I put up filled up. Now, how fast could it have grown? I don't know. Tiffany Anderson could put up 500 gourds at her house, and by next May, she'd have 300 pairs of martins. She lives right in on a flyway, and it's just location specific. There's no general rule, I don't think. Now, I know last year it seemed like I saw more subadults than I had seen in several years. I had a lot of gourds, a lot of fighting, a lot of, there were days that I had 15 to 18 unmated males flying around at dark trying to find a gourd to get in, and they'd finally just fly off and go roost in a tree. But, was I more observant last year than I was here? I don't know.
So, Kyle, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the PMCA estimates that somewhere between 50 to 60% of the population will die during migration.
Yeah, I've dug through PMCA quite a bit in preparation for this project over the next several years. And actually the mortality rate among purple martins is starkly better than most other passerines near passerines. So most songbirds within their first year have a mortality rate of about 80 to 90%.
Wow.
So having
Wow.
such a low mortality rate in purple martins, I would assume is really helped along by landlords.
Sure. Providing housing, they're not nesting on the ground, subject to snakes and
Yeah.
the normal predators that the other birds are. Sure.
Cats, feral cats,
Feral cats. Yep.
house cats, kitty
Cats.
I hate cats.
Button anymore now.
So, are there any other questions that anyone had regarding supplemental feeding?
No. Second point, Kathy.
Predator guards.
Predator guards. I win. I got the best
You
ones.
do.
I saw that message where you had something get popped a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I was sitting out on the deck last week, I think, and right at dark, something got in my predator guard, and it wow. I hope it was a snake. So I couldn't see it, so it had to be something slithering, or could have been a toad for all I know. Poor little toad.
Little toad.
Big frog in mine last year.
I really.
Poor thing. Yeah, didn't make it. Fried froggy.
Aw.
Yeah.
Got a
I
break.
didn't know you had
Yeah,
electric
man.
guards, Courtney. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, she's got souped up electric guard. Got this big thing, shield around the bottom of the pole. Hers makes mine
Awesome.
look elementary.
So let's talk about predator guards. So everybody has some type of snake around. We know that in northern Canada that some of the people don't have the big rat snakes that we have down south, like in Texas and Georgia and Louisiana, but everybody has raccoons. Everybody
God.
has raccoons.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Let me just
Boy, they
find my
will-
handy dandy.
They will wipe you out. So one of the biggest problems we find with a lot of new landlords is that they're not aware that snakes and raccoons can climb their poles. We had a guy in Texas last year that had a problem with his purple martins were being eaten in their nest. Turns out it was a big rat was somehow getting around up his cable and over his snake netting up into his gourds and eating his purple martin. So we recommend, Purple Martin Fanatics officially recommends here.
Hear ye.
Exactly. If you don't have the ability to set up an electric predator guard, which Brad and Courtney will attest is the absolute best predator guard you can use, at the very least, please use a cylinder guard with netting above the cylinder. And some people don't like to use the netting above the cylinder, but several things, several advantages to using the netting above the cylinder. One is you don't catch as many, you don't catch as many snakes and you don't have to remove them all from your netting. They'll destroy your netting and then you have to, snakes will pee on you and you have to deal with them. Deal with them, meaning you have to take them away. Please don't kill snakes. We at Purple Martin Fanatics also recommend that you do not kill beneficial snakes, please. They're good for our environment. But the other good reason to have your netting above the predator guard is you won't have to remove as many snakes, and the raccoons won't get tied up in your netting below your guard either.
And the Purple Martin Fanatics also recommend putting stovepipe guards more than 3 feet off the ground.
Yes, please.
Yep. I'm sure nobody that's on right now would say this, but I hear every year, oh, I don't have raccoons. We don't have raccoons in our area. I keep this handy for just such occasions. If y'all could point out where in North America or Central America that you live that is not in the raccoon breeding range, we would appreciate that information.
Yeah, that's good now. Oh,
Maybe if you live in Salt Lake City, Utah, you don't have raccoons.
oh
Brad,
my.
put that back up there, please, so I can do a screenshot, please.
Oh my. Well,
Yes,
that would have
please.
been really good if I had not gotten rid of that.
I'm sorry,
Well, I'm used to you getting screenshots, but it's usually me picking my nose or something like that.
I know, right? Right there. Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay.
Can I add something to that if you don't mind?
What?
Please, yes.
So one comment about the snake netting. Just remember, if you're going to use it, it is a form of a trap. So it needs to be checked daily and remove the snakes, as Kathy mentioned, to keep them from dying in the netting, please. That's important, especially if your site is in an area where the public can view it easily. We don't want to create a bad PR situation with Martin people and netting killing snakes and that becoming a widespread phenomenon. There's already been some chatter about that on some internet sites. Also, make sure with the baffle, like she said earlier, that it's at least 4 feet off the ground, not 3 feet also, as Brad mentioned, and that there's nothing under the baffle that a snake could use as a ladder to bypass the baffle. For example, if your winch box is right under your baffle and it's sitting right under the bottom of that cone, the snake could just push off of the winch box and use it to bypass the baffle. So if you've got anything under that baffle, you're going to need to estimate that distance from the bottom of the winch box, whenever that is, and put that baffle up as high as possible. And it's the same situation too if you are one of those folks that puts your housing up on a fence. It needs to be up above the fence line too. We don't recommend that you do that, but that has also been mentioned on our page a few times.
Thank you, Courtney. I missed those. Those are good points. Thank you.
Yeah, the snake grabbing the winch with its tail and going over the guard would be very easy.
Yep.
And I don't know how many of y'all have ever laid hands on a 6 foot long eastern gray rat snake. They stink. And it doesn't wash off. They have some kind of musk that just gets all over you, and you got to wear it off. They're this guy's got electric predator guards because he don't want to play with snakes. So, you know.
I had them stuck in my knitting in my bluebird house once, so I had to do the same thing. And my husband helped me. He was not real thrilled with that. He said, "I don't want to do that again."
Kathy, I have a question that we've long passed me asking, but it was in the last segment, but it wasn't supplemental feeding, so I don't know which segment it was in.
Okay.
Did the PMCA over the past 20 years revise the number of martins that they say it takes to have a sustainable colony? Because when I started, I don't remember that number being as high as the 24 that we keep seeing now. I was thinking when I started that they were saying like 6 or 8 pair was needed for a sustainable colony, but I've slept since then. So,
and he's trying to join right now.
Hey,
So what?
John Barrow. Hello.
Yeah, he's not quite connected yet.
No, I don't think he's connected. I don't know if they've changed it or not, Brad. In fact, I looked this up here a few weeks ago again, just to make sure it hadn't changed again. It's on their website still. So I don't know if how long have you been a landlord?
This is my 19th year.
Okay, this is my 15th or 16th year, I think.
Yeah, you joined the PMCA forum on April the 3rd, 2007.
2007.
It sounded good.
That's actually pretty close. I think you've been stalking me, but yeah.
Oh.
I don't know. I know when I joined the PMC, or when I did the PMCA conference in 2011, we had talked about that then as well. So I don't know. I've always just known that number from their site.
Okay. This is actually my 20th year to attract martins. I started out with one lonely little SY male and 300 house sparrows. House sparrow. I'm not joking. House sparrows.
Great.
I had it's before we even moved to the farm. I put a gourd rack up. I knew nothing about purple martins. A guy that I went to school with, a good friend of mine, said, "Hey, you need to put up gourd racks." So I did, and it was in the wrong place. It was down at the pond. But I was bush hogging one day, and I had, of course, I didn't know they were SY at the time, but I had a SY pair and a lone SY male that flew up on the gourd rack, and the paired male went in a gourd. A male house sparrow went in right behind him, and they came out fighting, and the pair of martins flew away, never to be seen again. The SY male hung around for a little while, for several weeks, and I trapped 300 house sparrows in a year.
That's awesome. Hey, John Barrow has joined. Hey, John. And Shirley, hey, you made it. Hey, Shirley.
I just kept trying. I clicked on the link and it said click something else, and it finally let me in. I don't know.
It's Kathy's fault.
I think Brad is the one who did that. So, folks, sorry, go ahead.
I have a question about the predator guards.
Okay, sure. Who's speaking? Is that
I
Shannon?
can't tell you.
Lauren Grimes.
Lauren Grimes. Sure, go ahead, Lauren.
Okay, so sorry, my husband tried to talk to me while you guys were talking, and I missed kind of most of it. So we got predator guard. We have like the baffle. Like I have this baffle thing that's, I don't know, 24 inches, maybe 18 inches. I don't know, never measured it. And you know, being a woman, I'm not good with size because this is 9 inches, baby. Right, I can't resist it when I have the opportunity.
Oh my God.
Sorry, I had to. But anyway,
Good night, everybody.
if I offended anybody. Okay, so that has to be 4 feet above my winch.
So, Lauren, did you get your predator guard from the PMCA or Troyers?
I got one from PMCA, and I don't remember where I got the other one from.
Okay.
That's Nest something.
So they are about 24 inches long, and they're about 9 or 10 inches in circumference or wide, whatever you want to call it. The top of your guard needs to be at least 48 inches high. And usually that leaves a few feet underneath the bottom. So if you go up as high as you, okay, so let me go to what I do. And then Courtney, I'm going to ask you to speak on this a little bit. The bottom of my guards get mounted as high as I can reach. And I'm 5'3". Okay. So I imagine, no, it's not 5'0", it's 5'3¼ technically.
I have met you in person.
Okay, but anyway,
in my pocket.
I mount my guard as high as I can get it, just because the higher the better. Okay, and I don't even know where that puts the bottom of my guard from my winch, but I also leave my winch handle down, which makes my husband cuss because he has to mow around them. Then, but
okay, I can do that. I can like put it up high. I'm 5'12", so I can reach.
Still not set.
And then what? Now the snake guard. Where does, how high up is that? Like, is that above my winch that I can't get my house down?
So, where are you located, Lauren?
It's South Central Missouri.
Okay.
Southwest Central Missouri.
Okay, so we do get big snakes here, but we don't get the size snakes that Texas gets. First of all, let's say that. But your snake netting can be sit right on top of your predator guard, and you can make it so that you can move it, or you can also mount your snake netting to your predator guard. And we happen to have the design, Brad, that Tiffany did. I don't think we have that on YouTube or anything, but we have
No,
that design that we could share with you, Lauren.
she posted a picture of that this afternoon.
Oh, she did.
On June, Ivy posted a question, and let me see if I can find it. I don't think there's a better design out there. I really don't.
I agree. So, but you will have a couple of options, Lauren, that we have for you. I have a quick remove design. It's just a quick set on top of your predator guard. Or if you want something more permanent, like Tiffany has done, and I really like what Tiffany did better, because whenever you pull off your quick release predator guard, the netting comes right with it and everything. So if you're handy, if you have a husband that can drill a few holes for you in your predator guard, he can mount the netting right to your guard, your cylinder guard.
It's awesome.
That sounds like it would work, because I looked at these and, we tried messing with it last year. That was the first year I knew about snake guards. I'm only on year 4. And so this will be year 4. Anyways, it just didn't work. I mean, I never caught any snakes and all my birds were there, so maybe it worked, but it was in the way of bringing down the houses,
Right.
Lauren, does your stovepipe guard hinge where you can take it off the pole, or is it one of those that you just kind of have to open up and slide up and down?
It comes, both of them come completely off.
Okay, here is if you will look on the group at June Ivy, she posted a question about a predator guard, and I know that's probably a terrible picture.
You could share your screen, Brad.
I tell you what I'll do, Lauren, I will go to find that post and I'll tag you on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can see that, and then you can ask Tiffany about some questions about how they designed it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just so you know,
Will do.
Lauren, Tiffany started, this is her 3rd year. 2 years ago, she had a heath house that had 1 pair of martins in it. She had a stovepipe guard with snake netting on top of it, and a snake climbed her pole, ate her martins, and climbed back down the pole, and she caught the snake coming back down the pole. So the net has to be put on in a certain way so it catches the snake. They don't just crawl around it. Miss Freeze has a lovely video on the Fanatics YouTube channel of getting whipped by a snake net in the wind.
Yeah.
but she was successful in putting it
I got it up there
on the pole.
I know I think it was my 2nd year, I did see a snake, and I just had never found the purple martin on Facebook, so I just didn't know it was all there. I had a 6-foot rat snake climbing up my pole that I happened to catch, like climbing up the pole, before it got the babies, and luckily it left them alone. I got online, and all I saw was like, not cinnamon, but something to put around the pole. And I was doing all of that. And then I was like, oh, these snake guards. But, and I was 100% that year. So that snake never came back, but I don't want that to happen again. It scares the crap out of me. It's going to happen when I'm not looking.
Yep.
Right. And it will. You're right, Lauren. Lauren, I tagged you on the post, and when you get on there, just let us know if you have any questions, and we can help you, right? And Tiffany can tell you all about it.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kathy, I'd
Yeah.
like that one too, please. Because
Okay,
with the addition of the supposed owl guard that we're trying, the the regular predator guard that comes with a 2-inch pole, we have to remove it every time. So I am going to need something QD, and I've been looking on the PMCA for that and yada yada. But if there's a better design out there, I'd appreciate it, because with lowering that owl guard, it has to be completely removed every time for a
Yep.
nest check.
Yeah, it does. Yep, I'll tag you on that too then.
Thank
I'm
you.
trying to tag both of them.
Kathy,
Yes.
can you tag me on that one too? That's one of those jobs I can give to my hubby.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to.
Can you
should do
share the
that. You should do
screen?
that.
Can you just share it?
Oh, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
He's my
From one
workhorse.
husband- from one husband to another. See how this goes?
Oh, good
Here's
old honeydew list.
right. All right. I'm tagging Nancy and Travis. Here's the predator guard. That's what I put on there.
And me.
There's,
I was just wondering if you could share the screen of what you're looking at here.
well, now Kathy might
can sure
can,
try.
but Brad sure can.
Host has disabled participant screen sharing. Brad can.
He has to give you permission.
How do I don't. I don't know. I need to know. How do I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, you can do
You
that.
gotta be
Oh,
careful.
multiple participants. One participant can share at a time. Try it now, Kathy.
Okay. All right. Oh, golly, I can do it. Let me make sure I don't share the wrong screen here.
There you
And-
go.
Aha, there it is.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
She's got a video that I like better.
So you guys can see that, right?
Mhm.
I think he used all thread. Brad, you'll have to help me out here. He used all thread,
They did.
4 arms, and stuck them or drilled them into the thing here. Probably put some nuts on the inside to hold that.
Yep.
And then I think that is 1 inch or 3/4 inch netting that he draped over it.
Yeah, I think it's 3/4. And there's several layers there.
Yes.
Now the next picture down is pretty important too, because when they put it up there like that, it leaves some gaps. And she uses a bungee cord to go around below those rods to make sure there's no gaps for the snake's head to get between the guard and the bird netting.
Right.
Kathy would use a zip tie, but
I was going to say, I
zip
thought the
ties.
general consensus was zip tie in this group, but you know.
I am the zip tie queen. I have stock in zip ties. But yeah,
Yes.
this is a great picture that she put on here.
It is such a good idea. I've
It
seen
is.
people trying to come up with a better way to do this for 20 years. And
All it took was one determined landlord.
one Alabama redneck is what you meant.
I know, right? I just think this is so cool.
Hey,
Oh.
Kathy, you've got a question.
And that's
in
at the
chat.
top.
Yep,
I'm sorry,
that's
got a what?
very top of the guard.
Kathy, you've got a question in the chat from Shannon.
Okay. Brad, can you read it?
Would chicken wire work to make your netting? No,
No.
it won't.
No, and it won't work, Shannon, because the snake can go through the holes. They're held with chicken wire. The opening is held.
It's
what's the word I'm
rigid.
Rigid. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. And with netting, when they start crawling through it, they start entangling themselves in it, and that you just can't do the same thing in chicken wire.
Right.
Good question, though.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything else about this? I didn't know if you guys knew this or not, but when you click on a picture, you get this little magnifying glass up there. You can click on that 2 or 3 times to magnify a picture if you like.
Oh,
It helps you see a little bit better, or you can also decrease it.
I didn't know.
So I tagged everybody that asked me to on that, and you can give your honey-do list to your husbands. The only thing I'm not sure of on here, Brad, is how long those all thread rods are. Maybe Tiffany can share that information in that thread.
I think they are a foot long, but I'm not 100% sure. No.
Okay. They look longer than a foot.
All thread typically comes in either 5 foot or 6 foot lengths.
You know what that,
think. So maybe if it was a 6 foot piece, then they're 18 inches long.
Yeah, I bet they're, 18 makes sense. Okay.
I'm going on record. There's no way a snake can get past that. No way.
Nope.
No way. Or raccoon, or cat, or rat.
worry more about the raccoons because we live in a suburbia, and it's a golf course community. We've lived here for almost 30 years, and I've never seen a snake other than a garter snake. But we have raccoons, and yeah, so that should work.
And a raccoon will wipe you out.
Oh yeah.
When I first started mentoring landlords here in Missouri, I reached out to a lot of people via newspapers, and I had a couple contact me from Lake of the Ozarks, and they called me one weekend and said, look, we don't know what happened to our purple martins. And they said they were here and then they were gone. And I said, okay, tell me your story. And they said they went away for a 4-day weekend and they came back and all of their martins were gone and there were feathers everywhere. And I said, well, was there blood on the gourds? Was there on the poles, or were their wings torn off or what? And they said, well, we really don't know. We'll go down and look. Now they had 3 racks of 24 gourds each. Okay, 72 pair.
Holy
so
moly.
They went down and they came back and they told me there is blood all over all the gourds. There's blood all over the poles, and there's wing parts laying all over the ground. I said, well, you've had a raccoon attack. And they said, we didn't think raccoons could climb these poles. Yeah, raccoons can climb your poles. And they said, we had noticed a family of 5 raccoons in the woods near where they had lived. But they never heard about putting predator guards on their poles. But all it took was a 4-day weekend and the raccoons wiped out their colony. And what the raccoons didn't kill flew away for their lives. And it took them, well, that was 4 years ago. And I've never heard that they got martins back again.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the raccoons didn't get all of them, but it destroyed their colony. It's sufficient enough that it didn't come back. And the snake, same thing.
Shannon messaged and said she didn't mean the chicken wire instead of the netting. She meant chicken wire to hold out the netting, spread out. That could work, I suppose, but it'd be, in my mind, it'd be a lot of work.
Thanks for the clarification, Shannon. Yeah, I don't know if chicken wire would work or not. I think it would bend down too easy, like flop down when it's trying to hold up the netting.
Yeah, it'd be easy for them to pull it down if they ever got their head over the top of it.
Right.
All right, raccoons leave wings. Cats eat heads. That's about all a cat's gonna eat. They're just gonna eat the head. I don't know what rats leave, but there are indications of what predator has attacked your martin colony by what's left of the martins.
Right. Raccoons leave wings. Hawks and owls leave feather piles. And it's really hard to distinguish between an owl and a hawk attack. Usually a hawk will take it and perch somewhere on a post, away and eat the bird. I will say that my owl when it has killed a martin here, it's usually a feather pile in the yard somewhere, not up on a post or something.
Yeah, but you got super owl though.
Yeah, I do.
Super owl.
I'm gonna have her, practice for the Avenger Squad or something. I don't know, but anyway, snakes do not leave any sign other than an empty nest. A snake will attack your colony, eat a nest of 3 or 4 nestlings and the mom and dad, and leave by morning, and you won't even know what happened.
Yeah.
So
they just swallow them whole.
They do. My uncle that lives across town about 10 miles, he thought that greasing the poles was a sufficient way to protect from predators. And I begged him and begged him and begged him. And he says, oh, no, I haven't had a snake attack in years. And I'm like, okay. And sure enough, he called me one weekend and he was laughing. And he says, hey, you want to come over and see this snake that I just pulled out of my purple martin housing? It's got 5 purple martins in it and I'm going to cut it open. I said, no, don't need to see that. Don't need to hear that you're doing that. Please put a predator guard on your pole. I don't know if he ever did. I never went over there anymore. Couldn't handle it. But anyway, are there any other questions about, I guess we haven't covered oyster shells and eggshells, but I have an article that I've posted on the forum before about how you prepare eggshells. Oyster shells actually have a little more calcium. I think Courtney is our scientist here, but I think I've read oyster shells have more calcium, but if the martins won't take them, it's not helpful anyway.
All about the bioavailability of the calcium and how absorbable it is in its form. So that's the sticking point. And Brad can talk about that also. Dr. Chicken Gizzard over there.
Yep. Right.
Well, I don't know what the bioavailability is for the calcium in an eggshell or oyster shell.
I used to know, I don't remember anymore.
Yeah, that was like biochem, and that was 29 years ago. I think Kathy said it best. And I have read the study that the PMCA did and said that oyster shells did provide more calcium than eggshells. However, I bought a 50-pound bag of pullet-sized oyster shells the first year I had martins. And if I had continued to use it, I would still be using oyster shells out of the same bag. My birds will pick at the oyster shells. They just don't eat a whole lot of them. But now eggshells.
Come here, look.
Eggshells, I've got it's actually not on the Fanatics channel. It was on my old YouTube channel where I feeding eggshells in my garden. And I did let them stay out one day just so the video would look more awesome. But there's 30 or 40 martins just gorging on eggshells.
Yeah.
And I put my first ones out about a week ago, and they started right in eating them. And they use more when they're feeding nestlings than they do before. But at the end of the day, the take-home message is the studies that have been done show that clutch size increases with calcium supplementation. So it's important to, if we can get 4.2 nestlings per gourd instead of 3.8, then that's better for our martins. Same number of gourds.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Lauren asked a question. When do we start feeding eggshells to our martins?
I started last week. Mine are building nests just as hard as they can go. I probably got some eggs. Haven't been able to pull a nest check out because of cool weather, but I usually do it as soon as I start seeing them build nests.
I'm already
Um,
feeding them too.
And Lauren asks, and until when? Lauren, I feed mine until the last nestlings have fledged, because the martins not only take the calcium for themselves, they feed the calcium to their nestlings. That's why if you don't have enough eggs, you might want to get some oyster shells and just put a tray out. I mount mine up on a post, so they're up off the ground. But I think oyster shells are, well, I don't know what they are today. They were $5 for a 50-pound bag when I bought it a year ago or 2 years ago. Maybe more now, but you can get a 50-pound bag pretty reasonably.
Do yours eat, how well do yours eat oyster shells?
They'll pick the eggshells out, but they'll eat the oyster shells if that's all that I leave out there. I think Lauren just posted another question. Just always out there. Yes, I just always leave them out there. And when I see the pan empty, I just refill it.
Same here. I just dump some out about every other day, every third day,
Yeah.
whatever it takes.
I mean,
you can
if
get,
you don't have eggshells, just throw oyster shells out. They'll eat it. I've seen them bring in different sources of calcium from other places, grit and stuff, you know. I don't know if they have a craw. Brad, do they have a craw? No, they don't have a craw. So
I've never
So
done
hopefully-
I've never done a post-mortem exam on one, but I read that on the PMCA forum that they don't have a crop.
they don't have a crop. That's it. Lauren, hopefully that answers all your questions. I was reading them out of the chat. So
For those of you who want to use eggshells, and you don't have to eat 26 eggs a day, we have and every town has a cafe, a restaurant, a deli, or something that cooks breakfast. I would go every day to our local home-owned grocery store, and they cook 30 dozen eggs a day. So
Wow.
I was getting 30 dozen eggshells a day, and I did that. I did that. I had to go every day because of the health department. But I started last year with 3 sealed, completely full 5-gallon buckets of dried, crushed, washed, baked eggshells.
Wow.
And I fed an entire bucket last year. That's about 35 pounds of eggshells.
Good golly. So bake your eggshells, 225 degrees, 12 to 15 minutes, and then crush them into smaller than a dime-sized pieces. That's
If you're
eggshell
baking,
prep.
yeah, if you're baking 30 dozen at a time, it takes a lot longer than 15 or 20 minutes. It takes about an hour and a half.
Yeah, I bet.
You just want the membrane to be good and dry, completely brittle. If you're going to store them in the freezer, it doesn't matter, but I don't store mine in the freezer.
Okay, so we're way over time. I apologize, everyone, but hopefully we've answered all your questions and helped a few of you. And you guys can pass on the knowledge now to some of your friends as well.
And be thinking about topics for next time, and don't be shy about mentioning them, because we are here to help you and to entertain you.
We're just such a shy bunch.
Right?
Some of you are, but Nancy, I don't think you are.
I'm shy. I'm an introvert, but I have a really wicked sense of humor.
Me too. I'm very painfully shy.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining tonight, and we hope some of this was helpful.
This was great.
And you can share with your friends. Feel free to ask us questions. You know where to find us on the forum.
Okay. Have a
Bye,
good night.
guys.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.